Hello everyone, I'm Transformers Fanco 328 here, and welcome to 2016, and we went through a whole year without a main series Pokemon game since 2008! Pokemon Theme better be good then. Like a lot of people, I grew up on Pokemon and loved it for many different reasons, but the biggest one was, obviously, the various creatures you could catch, train, and evolve. These are judged purely on the games and maybe some external stuff, primarily on character design, background info, typing, and effectiveness in battle. There were tons to choose from, and this includes legendaries. There's no additional limitations because then it wouldn't be an honest list. Anyways, enough stalling. Let's get on with my top 11 favorite Pokemon, coincidentally timed with Pokemon's 20th anniversary. When you really think about it, Gen 4 had about as many Pokemon as Gen 6 did, if you exclude the about 30 or so evolutions of past Gen Pokemon. A few of these did fall flat, several missed a lot of great potential, but a good amount of them took nearly useless Pokemon and gave them great viability. And Gliscor is... Wait, Gliscor? Not Gliscor? Okay. Gliscor is one of those evolutions. Gligar was a somewhat useless random mon introduced in Gen 2, and had little to justify using it until Gliscor's badass appearance came onto the scene. While its 95 attack and speed are good, many Pokemon outspeed it and hit harder. If you use a Gliscor competitively, you're focusing on its 125 defense. If you get one from an immunity Gligar, you'll have it nick one of Breloom's abilities and use it to great effect, boiling down item choices for this thing to Toxic Orb, and Toxic Orb, rendering you immune to sleep, paralysis, and burn for the remainder of the battle. It has great moves to use with it, like Substitute, Toxic, Roost, Earthquake, Protect, Knockoff. This thing can almost stall like an OU Lugia. That is, if it wasn't quad weak to Ice. Several good Pokemon could run Ice Beam or another good Ice-type special move, and in tandem with its 75 special defense and HP, which greatly hinders its overall defensive capabilities, as well as a weakness to water, it's screwed. One of the most famous parts of Pokemon is constantly running into Pokemon that really aren't useful. Particularly, Zubats in Gen 1 had not much use to have around, as Poison wasn't a great type, especially in the game where Psychics dominated. Gen 2 made many major improvements to the system, and even to certain Pokemon, including expanding the Zubat line. Crobat is awesome, due mostly to being just a great all-around flyer with several good moves for both of its types, which has more use now thanks to being one of the new Fairy type's major weaknesses. And a few typing additions make certain Pokemon easier for it to deal with. Even with a Mega Evolution in play, Crobat's speed will practically ensure it'll get the first hit, and with a good 90 physical attack, it'll effectively knock a Fairy out in a flash with a good Poison Fang. So long as that Fairy isn't part Steel type. It's odd how Gen 6 introduced the least amount of new Pokemon so far, but most of them are great. While Greninja became the most overpowered starter since Blaziken, Aegislash manages to be a very effective gimmick Pokemon, doing something that Zoroark couldn't do by making the gimmick ability a legitimate strategy, since the shift between forms can, more or less, give you a non-legendary version of Arceus to play around with from a base stat standpoint. Its signature move, and only one that can shift it back to Shield form, King Shield, is like Protect, but lowers physical attack if hit with a move that makes physical contact. It's got good moves too, like Sacred Sword, Shadow Sneak, Swords Dance, Shadow Claw, the list goes on. However, this can be its downfall too. Since plenty of Aegislashes will be running with King Shield, it can be very easy for the opponent to play mind games with you, since King Shield is highly predictable. In addition, its stats may seem like legitimate Arceus, but it's not, since its base attack and defense stats shift along with the form. Because of this, a Pokemon that survives an attack from Aegislash, usually with a Focus Sash and the Sturdy ability, can usually follow up with a move that'll hit for massive damage, even if it resists it. Besides, it's in the Uber tier. unique trait evolutions, especially ones that require a specific item, because otherwise, I try to have a Caesar on my party as often as possible. Aside from evolving from one of the coolest bug Pokemon ever, and looking even cooler by default, it drops its redundant flying typing for a stronger steel typing, leaving it with only one weakness. That it's super weak to, but it gains immunity to poison and loads of resistances. It's got a great move pool and great physical attack, augmented further by its Mega Evolution, which looks even more badass and grants it more defense in addition to the added physical attack. Shame it's kinda slow and can't take a special attack, which a lot of good fire attacks tend to be. Despite this, that Bullet Punch can be quite effective, especially when it Mega Evolves, defaulting its ability to Technician and maximizing its offensive potential. So what's your favorite Pokemon? Screw you! Nobody cares! Cause it sure isn't as awesome as this here Aggron! Just look at how stunning this thing is! Its Pokedex entries just get cooler and cooler with how friggin' awe-inspiring it really is, too. It's got a decent move list, including Heavy Slam, improved with the Heavy Metal ability, and Head Smash, which can use reliably with Rock Head. And it has a good 110 physical attack to go with it, plus a base 180 physical defense and 8 resistances, which jumps to 230 and 10 respectively when Mega Evolved, making it an ideal physical wall. If it weren't for its crippling quad weakness to fighting and ground moves, two of the most common attacking types in the game. Its special offense sucks too, meaning its other weakness, water, can hit it for massive damage if the user is special oriented. This is somewhat mitigated by the Mega Evolution, which removes the rock typing and halves the damage done by super effective moves with Filter, which also removes the usefulness of Heavy Slam or Head Smash, not to mention swapping one weakness for another. Aggron's a bit of a double-edged sword in these cases, but use him right, and Aggron will mess your team backwards. Go get yourself a gosh darn Aggron today! Now available at your local Victory Road. As a Laron. Lazy bastards. Honestly, I always thought Togepi was at least kinda cute, since I did watch the anime when I was young. But since I never really played the Johto games, I never really had the thing. Even when I did have it, it didn't seem useful to me. Until I got Togekiss! The other Gen 4 non-legendary on the list. Aura Sphere, Air Slash with Serene Grace, Extreme Speed, and they got better as a Fairy type, slaying dragons left and right and becoming totally immune to both of Garchomp's stabs. Sorry, Hydreigon. To be fair, it's not a great physical attacker, and the only fairy moves it can learn are from its previous evolutions only, and those were status moves, or Dazzling Gleam, a technical machine that most fairy types can learn already. Mitigating the problem is the fact that the moves I stated earlier were all special moves, except Extreme Speed, and it's got a good special attack and good defenses too. It also made Togetic usable too, thanks to making it compatible with Eviolite. Gen 5 brought us a lot of unique typings, except for the Firestarter continuing the Firefighter trend. Among the types that improved in that generation was Bug, including a Ninja Bug that coincides with an Armored Javelin Bug, a Speedy Poison Bug that got even better with Speed Boost in Gen 6, making it one of the best baton passers in the game, and my personal favorite, the Fire Bug that can replace the fucking sun! Even when it was first introduced, it was kind of a pushover since its typing crippled it when sent out on Stealth Rocks. And Rock is a relatively common attacking type, but Volcarona's moves and versatility more than make it another pre-Mega Charizard in the metagame. But it's just not good enough to rival Ho-Oh in the Ubers. It can make great use of Quiver Dance, making its already great special attack even better, with its solid base speed improving as well. Its signature move, Fiery Dance, is quite effective and can raise Volcarona's special attack even further. Another reason why this thing is so cool is that it doesn't evolve from a Larvesta until it reaches level 59, the highest for a single evolution. But its viability in both casual play and the competitive metagame made you feel like you earned the thing. Also, its other language names are just as awesome, if not even cooler, than its English name. Ramoth, Olgamoth, Pyrax? Whoever came up with these should be given an award for the most metal Pokemon names ever! Deoxys, one of the coolest legendary Pokemon ever. Wait, it's event only? Aww. Not anymore? Sweet! I loved this thing from the second I first saw it on an ad for its admittedly mediocre movie, Destiny Deoxys. Being a space virus named after deoxyribonucleic acid, or DNA, it can shift its genetic code to better some of its stats in exchange for its others. Normal form for balanced attacks and balanced defenses with each other, attack form for even higher offenses for much lower defenses, defense form for better defenses in exchange for middling offenses, and speed form for middling offenses and defenses in exchange for the highest uninvested speed stat in the game. Even though it doesn't carry the 680 total that most really good legendaries carry, it still manages to be a competitive game breaker no matter what form you're using. It's also the first legendary to get its own unique battle theme, which is unique and weird, almost alien, but awesome nonetheless, fitting for the DNA Pokemon. I finally get to use this joke! Sounds like a lot of hoopa to make over a little Big Mac, right? Wrong! Out of the 3 mythical Pokemon added in Gen 6, Hoopa surprised me the most. Sure, Volcanion has yet to be fully detailed at this point, but just about everything about Hoopa took a different direction than I was expecting. It's a Psychic Ghost type, a combination no other Pokemon has had. It gets a new form instead of a Mega Evolution, in which it becomes gigantic and shares its typing with Malamar. Its movie turns out to be the best one I had seen since the 3rd movie, with a great characterization for Hoopa itself and that awesome legendary battle. It plays right into the fan theories of it being responsible for the spontaneous appearances of the non-Hoenn legendaries in ORAS. And you could have obtained this thing at your local McDonald's, of all places, between Black Friday and Christmas of 2015. Well, better there than Toys R Us at least. It has some good stats, with some solid physical attack, absurd special attack, and great special defense. Its attack power only grows when unbound, which is even better. However, it's not the fastest thing alive in either form, and its physical bulk is lacking, which doesn't bode well for Confine's quad weaknesses or Unbound zero resistances and susceptibility to U-turn. Its ability in both forms, Magician, while fitting for the character and helpful in certain situations, is generally a waste since you'll probably give Hoopa a Life Orb or something. Its move pool is admittedly very limiting by level up alone since it's all moves that match its types. If you want to have some coverage moves, you might need to grind battle points. But signature moves, Hyperspace Hole and Hyperspace Fury, are delightfully overpowered by bypassing accuracy checks as well as protection moves. Good thing they only have 5 PP each. Choosing my favorite legendary was probably the hardest part of this entire list. There are only a few that I either don't care for or even hate, but most of my absolute favorites were in the 4th generation, which in this case meant I had to choose between Darkrai or Giratina. In the end, I went with Giratina. While Darkrai, being the Pokemon of Nightmares, is a cool Pokemon, Giratina is basically the Pokemon equivalent of Satan. Sort of. Okay, maybe not factually, just let me have my headcanon, okay? What's even cooler about it is its unique typing, Ghost Dragon. Not beneficial as far as weaknesses are concerned, but still really neat, and evens out the playing field if there was ever a Giratina mirror match. Its moveset is really impressive with stuff like Ominous Wind, Shadow Claw, Shadow Force, and Dragon staples like Draco Meteor and Outrage. What puts Giratina over Darkrai for me was the additional form in Platinum, the Origin form. Good lord, this thing looks badass! Like Sigilyph and Metagross, 2 candidates for this list, this thing's Gen 5 sprite animation looks even cooler. Smooth even with multiple moving parts at once. Even better, its altered form has slightly better defenses than attack, which is flipped with its origin form, being more my cup of tea, with the same HP and speed, albeit a pretty low speed for a legendary. It's just awesome all around. For many people, their first Pokemon will always be either their best or their favorite. That's part of why Charizard's still so immensely popular, even in spite of its crippling Stealth Rock weakness. Even though I played the Gen 1 games and the remakes as a kid, it was receiving Pokemon Sapphire on one Christmas morning that I really grew to love Pokemon. Since I didn't use the internet nearly as much as I do now, I had no clue what these Pokemon were and what they'd evolve into, so I picked the one that I thought looked the coolest, a method I've stuck to ever since, and chose Mudkip. Since then, I grew to love it and its evolutions. In particular, Swampert became my favorite Pokemon for many reasons. Its typing, Water Ground, gives it immunity to one of Water's weaknesses and ensures that it has only one weakness, even though, like Caesar, it's super weak to it. You know, quad weaknesses are a common theme for my favorite non-legendary Pokemon. Its base stat total is the highest out of all the fully evolved starter Pokemon, even when comparing Megas, albeit by a super small margin when compared to Charizard, Delphox, and Furtive and Typhlosion. It's got plenty of great moves, including Stone Edge, Ice Beam, Earthquake, and Water-type staples Surf and Waterfall. And it can lay the infamous Stealth Rocks if you play your cards right. It's got good attack and capable defenses, and it just looks awesome in my opinion. Not to mention that Oraz gave it a cool looking Mega Evolution that really puts emphasis on its physical attack, and it has more than a few moves to take advantage of it. It's slow, but it's designed to take a hit, and it can actually outspeed certain threats in the rain, so that doesn't even matter. It's the first Pokemon I grew personally attached to, the first Pokemon I ever got to level 100, and my personal favorite Pokemon of all time. Though I admit it's largely based on sentimental reasons. I'm Transformers Fan Code 328, and I liked Mudkips long before I knew memes even existed. I have to say, thank you all so much for being so patient with me. So I figured you deserve an explanation as to why this video came out a lot later than I had originally intended. Because I planned to make this video come out in January. Want to know the reason why this video took me a lot longer than it should have? Because I'm a lazy bastard, that's why. It has nothing to do with YouTube's copyright system being downright broken. It has nothing to do with the Fine Brothers React World fiasco. It has nothing to do with trying to time it to Pokemon's 20th anniversary. If anything, the fact that I was making this countdown in 2016, which I had always planned to do by the way, was entirely a coincidence. I wasn't even using it as an excuse to laze my way through Fire Emblem Fates. If anything, making videos would have made that time go by way faster because I would have been doing something a little bit productive. But I suppose part of my laziness has to do with my lack of drive towards making countdowns. I mean, I still enjoyed making the Pokemon countdown, it's just I don't feel that I can make them monthly anymore. So, my next countdown video is going to be whenever I finish it. And that's just going to be the general release date of my countdowns. Especially since, in case you hadn't noticed, some of the countdowns that I made for each month kinda suffered in quality in some way, shape, or form. Either I didn't get the right footage, or I associated the wrong footage with the point I was trying to make, or I didn't quite make it work, or I was just completely wrong. I've made a few mistakes here and there. We all make mistakes at some point. That's something we can't really fix. But what I'm trying to do is reduce the margin of error. I'd rather take more time making these countdowns than trying to pump them out once a month and having them suffer ultimately. So my future countdowns will all be done at my own pace. If they come out in a timely fashion, great. But otherwise, I'd rather just wait until I can construct everything together. Now reviews I can make very quickly. I can play through a game, make my judgments and assumptions, and ultimately come up with reasons as to why I like or dislike a game and the portions that are included in it. So you'll at least be seeing one review every month, which honestly makes me very happy that I was able to get the Strength of the Sword 3 review done in between my spurts of laziness, and to have something in January, you know? I still want to provide you guys with content, but I'd rather my content not suffer as a result of trying to meet a unspecified deadline that I never clearly stated. Because I always tried to time my countdowns at the very beginning of each month, like before double-digit days happened, like the 1st to the 9th. There's your explanation, and I hope you all understand.